I'm going to officially call the meeting to order. It's 7:32 p.m. We have a special start to the meeting this evening. We recently had elections for wards 2 and 4, and we have the two winners sitting at the table. So my job to start off the meeting is to swear both of them in for 4-year terms. So I think since you have this giant fan club here, we'll start with you. So if we shall, why don't we come up to the front?
Already has a small one dedicated.
Oh, she has her own book.
I have to take the picture.
Hey, Mary, you just get anywhere you can get. Maybe you can get it.
Where you want them.
Maybe
Maybe stuff I have to read.
This is, yeah.
Okay, does this work? Does this work, Bill?
It works fine for me.
You ready? I, Linda C. Kuiper,
I, Linda C. Kuiper,
do swear that I will support
do swear that I will support
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
and that I will be faithful
and that I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland,
and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland,
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and that I will support and comply
and that I will support and comply
with the charter, laws, and ordinances
with the charter, laws, and ordinances
of the town of Chestertown,
of the town of Chestertown,
and that I will, to the best of my skill and judgment,
and that I will, to the best of my skill and judgment,
diligently and faithfully,
diligently and faithfully,
without partiality or prejudice,
without partiality or prejudice,
execute the office of Second Ward Council Member
execute the office of Second Ward Council Member
according to the Constitution and the laws of this state.
according to the Constitution and the laws of this state.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Look, that's a nice touch. Flowers. All right, Joyce, way to go.
And she won in a landslide shutout. That's good.
Okay, Patty.
All my family, come on.
His fan club is small.
I noticed one thing. The
put him in the
President of the United States is shorter than
You want me to put them in here?
I have it.
Oh,
I, Maurice Stetson,
I, Mark Stetson,
do swear that I will support
do swear that I will support
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
and that I will be faithful
and that I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland,
and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland,
and support the Constitution and the laws thereof,
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and that I will support and comply with the charter,
and I will support and comply with the charter,
laws, and ordinances of the town of Chestertown,
laws, and ordinances of the town of Chestertown,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
diligently and faithfully,
diligently and faithfully,
without partiality or prejudice,
without partiality or prejudice,
execute the office of 4th Ward Council Member
execute the office of 4th Ward Council Member
according to the Constitution and the laws of this state.
according to the Constitution and the laws of this state.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I knew he'd have to make a speech.
I want to thank the people of Chestertown for giving me the privilege to serve again for another 4 years. And in particular, those people of Ward, both those who voted for me and didn't vote for me. But I promise you, I'll work as hard as I can to keep Chestertown a very special place that we all think it is. And I also, I have to say, you've heard me say this before, I was pretty well assured that I could win night Ward unless my wife ran against me. With her support, and I mean real support, because she writes the checks and we finance our own campaign. So it was real, true fiscal and physical and emotional support that got me here. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming, guys.
And now she's leaving, but I always give her exactly what we say here. I don't change anything.
When you got that physical part, I thought we might have to cut the tape off.
Well, she feeds me. Maybe I just should have said that.
Nah, I knew what you meant. I knew what you
We'll
meant.
shop ours. Suddenly see more.
Okay, we're going to start the regular meeting. The first order of business is an annual tradition in Chestertown. It's actually written into our charter that at the beginning of each new year, the mayor gives what we're referring to as a State of the Town address. And I'm actually required to read this report to you here on camera. So just to give you a heads up, this is like a 10-page report, so I'm going to be reading for a few minutes. And I'll try to be as eloquent as I can, but it is what it is. So without further ado, here is the report on municipal affairs for the year 2015. The Charter of the Town of Chestertown states, "The mayor, during the first quarter of each calendar year, shall report to the council the condition of municipal affairs and make such recommendations as he deems proper for the public good and welfare of the town. Herein is said report." Financial. The audit for the town of Chestertown for FY 2015 is complete and will be presented in January by Lindsay and Associates LLC of Towson, Maryland. The audit showed the town to be in extremely strong financial condition with total net assets over liabilities in all departments of $15,202,860. During this year, the town again held the tax rate at 37 cents per $100 of assessed property value. The town also retained the homestead property tax credit percentage of 5%, which limits the increase in a homeowner's property tax bill to 5% in any given year, no matter how much their assessment has increased. Staffing. The town currently has 39 full-time employees in 4 different departments. These departments include the office, 6 staff members, street crew with 11, utilities with 8, and police with 14. There are also 4 part-time positions within the town. 3 are employees at the visitor center, and the police department has a part-time civilian administrative assistant. All departments are fully staffed and operating well. Now we move on to the activities and achievements in Chestertown in 2015. The following list highlights some of the significant developments that took place in our community in 2015. The first item, hospital oil spill remediation plan. The hospital oil spill remediation continued to be a serious town concern in 2015. In 2014, the hospital had carried out a pilot study of injecting a surfactant known as Ivysol into 3 test wells. The surfactant is essentially a detergent that mixes with oil, releases it from the soil, where it can theoretically be recovered by nearby pumping wells. The pilot test was approved by the Maryland Department of the Environment, also known as MDE, and relatively small quantities of oil were recovered during the pilot phase. Our legal and technical environmental consultants recommended that the town ask MDE officials in charge of approving the testing protocol to give the council, the public, and the press the facts concerning the impending plan to inject surfactants into the water table on a larger scale. MDE officials came to Chestertown at the mayor's request in late June and explained their rationale and answered questions. Still not totally satisfied that the remediation process was safe, a delegation of town officials, including me, traveled to the Maryland Department of the Environment on November 2nd to have an audience with Secretary Ben Grumbles and his staff. During this meeting, the town requested a consent agreement between the town, the hospital, and MDE that clearly delineates each party's responsibility for cleaning up the site and provides the town with financial assurances in the event of a worst-case scenario that might necessitate the creation of new wells. Despite our continued concerns, the full-scale injection of surfactants began in August and continues today. The consent agreement requested by the town has still not been drafted by MDE, so that's a little disappointing. Chestertown Marina Project. A great deal of time and effort this year was spent designing, fundraising, and obtaining permits for the redevelopment of Chestertown Marina. The rebuilding of the marina is an ambitious undertaking, as the entire facility is in urgent need of repair due to decades of deferred maintenance in the private sector. The redesign of the marina will address infrastructure needs by replacing and raising bulkheads, raising the grade of flood-prone grounds, replacing and extending the docks, removing and replacing the main marina building, dredging the entire basin, moving fuel storage tanks out of the floodplain, and building a new launch ramp and pervious parking area. Last year, in 2014, we asked the state legislature for a very large capital request of $4 million and did not succeed in getting the project funded. This year, in 2015, we discussed the marina project with representatives from Governor Hogan's office, divided the revitalization of the marina into 3 distinct funding phases, and solicited letters of support from area residents to demonstrate that this project has broad-based community support. So far, over 110 support letters have been received, with more arriving at Town Hall each day. Additionally, we have other state and federal requests for funds that have either been submitted, approved for a submittal, or already funded. We recently had the permits for all of the planned infrastructure upgrades approved by the Maryland Board of Public Works, and we'll be working with the owners of the Fish Whistle Restaurant to engineer a solution for the flooding of their parking lot, which is intertwined with the town's plans to raise the grade of the land and bulkheads at the foot of Cannon Street. Stay tuned, there's a lot to be done on that project still. New item, creation of the Arts and Entertainment District and the hiring of a full-time district manager. The town of Chestertown officially received designation as an Arts and Entertainment District in the state of Maryland in June of 2015. The district provides tax incentives for artists to create works of art within the district's boundaries, and also provides tax credits for property owners that make improvements to their buildings for arts and entertainment purposes. After receiving the A&E designation, the town budgeted funds to create a new full-time position for overseeing and managing this district. After an extensive search, the town hired Mrs. Kay McIntosh as its first economic development and marketing coordinator. Kay joined us in October and has already established strong inroads to progress in this area. Many thanks to volunteers in both the Greater Chestertown Initiative and the Downtown Chestertown Association for all of their hard work in assisting town staff with establishing the new A&E district. Next item, Kent County Middle School Recreation Plan. The town of Chestertown, the Kent County Board of Education, and the Kent County Commissioners submitted and received a $230,000 Community Parks and Playgrounds grant for campus-wide recreational improvements at Kent County Middle School. The town applied as the eligible agency and was notified that the grant was approved this past fall. The multi-agency cooperation involved in this project is unprecedented to our knowledge in Kent County, and it will allow us to develop a community asset that we can all use and enjoy. We are looking forward to bidding the work out this spring and hopefully completing the work on the project by the end of the summer of 2016, this year. Recreation Commission. The Chestertown Recreation Commission continued to provide fun things for people of all ages to do in town. The Bocce League had another successful year at Wilmer Park, and the outdoor movies entertained hundreds of people at the foot of High Street. In meetings held with the Recreation Commission, the Town Council ironed out some unclear, overlapping responsibilities and developed a working relationship with CRC that will benefit all of Chestertown citizens. The Council is currently working with the Recreation Commission to identify a location and research possible funding sources for a community playground. Improvements at Margot Bailey Park. Several improvements were made at Margot Bailey Park in 2015, and the facility continues to grow in popularity. A new pedestrian access point was established at Heron Point, and the park entrance off of Rolling Road was enhanced. New benches and additional landscaping were added to the dog park, and a new pavilion was constructed with donations obtained from the Friends of the Chestertown Dog Park. This isn't in my text, but as you all know, Marty Stetson has been a big advocate, particularly of the dog park, and it is, I think, one of the nicest dog parks probably in America. Gateway Park. Construction of the park by David A. Bramble began in November. The park's construction costs are covered by a $155,000 grant that the town received from the state of Maryland's Community Parks and Playgrounds program. The walking trail, basketball court, and parking lots have been installed, and the site grading and landscaping have been completed. Street lights, trash cans, picnic tables, bike racks, and a sidewalk connecting the park to Phase 3 of the rail trail will be added in the coming months. The town is targeting May of 2016 for an official ribbon cutting to open this new facility for public use. Next item is notes on parks in general. Since 2004, the town has added over 20 acres of public land for recreational use at Gateway and Bailey Parks and constructed almost 2 miles of rail trail. These facilities have been enhanced using every available grant available to towns. Chestertown has taken advantage of the stateside program open space funding in purchasing the parks, and has largely used the community parks and playground program to rebuild Wilmore Park, implement improvements at Bailey Park, and to develop Gateway Park. That's important because I don't think people realize, once we're done paying for our basic services, we don't have a ton of money left over for cool things like these parks. So the town staff really works overtime to identify funding sources outside of our normal budget for that, and they do a great job of that. Along those lines, the Wilmore Park Playscape. In 2015, the town finalized a $25,000 grant from the National Endowment for the Arts, Our Town Grant Program, one of only 2 recipients in the state, that funded a public arts master plan and a deposit on the inaugural public arts project envisioned in the plan, which is a children's playscape sculpture called Broad Reach at Wilmore Park, designed by Maryland-based artist David Hess. A $50,000 NEA public arts grant is being applied for that will pay for the remaining 50% of the costs associated with the playscape to be matched by the town and private donations. It is anticipated that, in a combination with a successful fundraising campaign, the playscape will be constructed by the summer of 2017. Construction of our new solar array. Solar City has completed the build-out of Chestertown's new 1.3 megawatt solar plant, carrying out the contract Chestertown signed with Solar City for a 20-year power purchase agreement, also known as a PPA, at 0.045 or 4.5 cents per kilowatt hour with no escalator over the life of the agreement. This PPA represents a significant cost savings on Chestertown's electric bills for the next 2 decades. The interconnection agreement through Delmarva Power was approved in December, and the system went live later that month. Notes on the Chestertown Police Station. In January, the town of Chestertown purchased 601 High Street for the relocation of the police department. The police are currently making interior and exterior changes to the building and plan to move to it in early 2016. The existing police department building at 333 South Cross Street will be sold. Visitor Center and Special Events. The Visitor Center was open 360 days last year and had over 14,000 visitors. May was the most active month with 2,247 visitors, followed by 1,729 visitors in the month of April. I'm about to list major events. Please, if I missed some and you see this on the Spy or the Kent Guardian, let us know. I did the same thing last year. It's inevitable. Major events in 2015 included the Chestertown Tea Party Festival, Sultana's Downrigging Weekend, Chester Graw, 4th of July fireworks, the National Music Festival, sponsored in part with Washington College, Legacy Day, Music in the Park, the Jazz Festival, Taste of the Town, the Harry Potter Festival, Riverfest, Winterfest Weekend, Santa's Arrival, and DCA's very popular First Fridays programs. These special events bring vitality to the town and stimulate economic activity throughout our community. Notes on curb appeal and DCA. The Downtown Chestertown Association's curb appeal program continued to beautify the town and put new energy on the street with their ideas and projects. This year they added many more holiday decorations to our downtown, and it added to the warmth of our holiday season. Our thanks go out to all of the curb appeal volunteers, especially Nancy Butler and the head of the DCA, Kristen Owen. Those ladies and their volunteers worked incredibly hard to get the town ready for the holidays, and you can see the results. Fountain Park restoration. The Garden Club and the town of Chestertown are continuing to work together to return Fountain Park to its original luster. That's a good word, though, luster.
I think I put it in.
I think you did. This year, the brick sidewalk was widened on Cross Street to create additional room for the artisans and farmers market vendors. Some of the sod from the expanded area was used to make repairs to downtrodden areas in other parts of the park. Areas of focus in 2016 will include adding new benches and continuing to reseed and or resod the grassy areas. Notes on the Farmers and Artisans Market. The Farmers and Artisans Market in Fountain Park continues to fill the historic district with a special vitality on Saturday mornings. Thanks to both market managers for the successful efforts, as the Chestertown market is widely regarded as one of the best in the state. Comprehensive Plan Update. In 2014, the Planning Commission completed a lengthy update of the Chestertown Comprehensive Plan. After the public comment period ended on December 15th of 2014, The Planning Commission incorporated the comments and forwarded their recommended document to the mayor and council. The council adopted the new comprehensive plan on April 6, 2015, thanks to the volunteers on our Planning Commission for a job well done. Community Legacy Grant. The Sultana Education Foundation received a $150,000 grant through the Community Legacy Funding Program in 2015 to build their new educational facility on South Cross Street. The town serves as the pass-through entity for this grant application. Construction on this facility is underway, and the Education Center is expected to open in July of 2016. The building itself will meet LEED Platinum standards, and its unique design should make it an iconic addition to the historic district. Acme expansion and Kent Plaza renovations. Now, it should be noted that this happened in the private sector, but it was a pretty big deal, so it was included. The Cordish Company and Acme completed renovations that nearly doubled the size of their existing store. A grand reopening was held in March. In addition to the Acme expansion, additional improvements were made at Kent Plaza, including repaving and restriping the parking lot, adding new curbs, and expanding landscaping islands at the facility. As an additional bonus, a new Tractor Supply Company store opened in September at the former Rose's location. Along similar lines, Redner's Warehouse Markets at Washington Square. Redner's Warehouse Markets held the grand opening for their brand new 40,000 square foot grocery store in 2015, giving the town two major food stores from which to choose for the first time in many years. The parking lot at Washington Square was repaved and restriped in conjunction with this initiative, and I think in general our two shopping centers on the north of the town look about as good as I've seen them in the 25 years that I've lived here. Washington College's new academic center. In April, the college broke ground for construction on the new academic center on Washington Avenue on the site of the former Kent County Board of Education building. The new center is on schedule for completion in 2016, and this should be a fantastic new addition to the streetscape along Route 213. SHA bridge closing proposal. The State Highway Administration, also known as SHA, announced that they would be closing the Chester River Bridge for 4 to 6 weeks in the spring of 2015 for much-needed painting and maintenance work. Naturally, this announcement greatly concerned many local residents and led to the creation of a task force consisting of representatives of the town, Kent County, and SHA. Largely as a result of the meetings of the task force, the proposed work was postponed by SHA, and it now appears that the bridge closure will occur during July and August of 2016. Stay tuned. Curbside recycling. The town's curbside recycling program continues to be a success, with well over 50% of households participating. Recycling of organic and non-organic bulk materials also continues at a high level, with the town pursuing every avenue practically available for reuse or salvage. Public information. James Egan continues doing a great job of getting our mayor and council meetings on air and on the web. The town also utilizes a constant contact program, Facebook page, and a revamped website at chestertown.com to provide information to our citizens. Notes on the town website. Councilman Sam Shogay worked closely with Move Productions and Ms. Francoise Sullivan on the creation of our new town website, which was launched in January. The site is user-friendly for both residents and visitors alike and is updated on an almost daily basis. There have been 47,434 unique visitors to the site, spending an average of 2 minutes and viewing an average of 3.84 different pages during each visit. Marketing Committee. Councilman Shogay initiated the creation of a marketing committee that is working on a branding initiative for Chestertown. The committee met frequently in 2015 and enlisted the support and expertise of the well-respected local company Benchworks. With the assistance of Benchworks, Chestertown's new A&E logo will be chosen this spring and incorporated into all new signage and marketing efforts to promote this district. Let me take a quick drink here.
Do you want help reading?
I've come this far, Liz. I'm almost done. I have a page and a half left. So now we're on goals for this year, goals for 2016. And they're just bullet points. I'm going to blow through them pretty quickly. Goals for 2016. Keep taxes at the same rate if possible while maintaining our chartered service responsibilities. Aggressively pursue all forms of public and private funding to complete the revitalization of Chestertown Marina. Work with the Kent County Commissioners to discuss the possibility of reinstating a tax differential for Chestertown. Research and consider a pilot program with input from Washington College. Work with Washington College to design, engineer, and identify funding sources for the planned waterfront walk along the Chester River on college-owned lands between Wilmore Park and the mouth of Radcliffe Creek. Continue our work with businesses, business associations, industries, and institutions to improve the local economy and keep our storefronts filled. Support all events, festivals, and celebrations that bring our town to life. Protect the town's drinking water wells at all costs. Continue to pursue measures to protect the town's water supply, including 1, a consent agreement between the town, the hospital, and MDE that clearly spells out each party's responsibilities with regards to the ongoing cleanup of the hospital's oil spill, and 2, working with the Eastern Shore delegation to pursue a local courtesy bill in Annapolis that provides the town with financial assurances for replacing its shallow water wells in the event of a worst-case scenario with the hospital's remediation efforts. Next, improve our recreation programs, expand recreational activities for all ages in Chestertown, and all involve the input of our youth in the decision-making process. Along those lines, work with the Recreation Commission to identify an appropriate site for a central playground for town residents under the age of 12. Pursue funding sources to design and construct the playground. Complete the Kent County Middle School, community parks and playgrounds campus restoration before school reopens in September of 2016. Encourage and expand recycling and all other greening efforts, increase public awareness of the need and advantages of these efforts, and continue to plant trees to reach the town's 40% canopy goal. Move the Chestertown Police Force to its new location at 601 High Street. Complete Gateway Park and connect it with Phase 3 of the rail trail. Work with the Maryland Transit Authority to clear the way for Phase 4 of the rail trail that would run from Morgneck Road to the edge of town. Create a new branding for Chestertown that will be incorporated into town signage. Add directional signage throughout our community. Pursue grants that provide solutions for storm drainage and runoff into the Chester River. Pave or repair streets as part of a comprehensive long-term plan. Continue to improve the town's website. Increase efforts to bring heritage and ecotourism to Chestertown through the use of the website and social media, and promote the community as an arts and entertainment destination. Explore the creation of an enterprise zone in Chestertown to provide landowners with tax incentives for making improvements on lots within town limits where new development is desired. And lastly, work with the medical community, Eastern Shore delegation, Kent County commissioners, and local residents to advocate for the retention of services at our local hospital. That's something that is going to be in the news a lot this year. Whew. Acknowledgements. This is my last paragraph. I would like to take a few final moments to thank all of those individuals who donated their time and talents to make Chestertown a better place in 2015. Thanks to the Chestertown Volunteer Fire Company and the Kent and Queen Anne's Rescue Squad, who put their lives at risk to protect our property and loved ones. Thanks also to the dozens of commission members, committee members, task force members who donate their time to help the town review applications, coordinate growth, and formulate future policy. I don't think people realize just how many volunteer hours go into running this town, but I can tell you that without them, we would definitely be way in the red. Without your help, there's no way that we could function. That's actually what's on the paper. Next, I'd like to recognize the volunteers who directly or indirectly assist the town with all the events and activities that bring excitement, pride, and a sense of identity to Chestertown. These include individuals, local businesses, and nonprofits that do what they do all year long without expecting any thanks in return. Finally, thank you to the employees of the town who carry out their jobs with pride, a sense of responsibility to our citizens, and attention to detail. While our beautiful river, historic buildings, Washington College, and the laid-back lifestyle of the Eastern Shore make Chestertown a unique and enjoyable municipality in which to live, it is the people in our community that make this a truly special place. So I don't know if I left anything out in that report. Let me know if you think I did, but that's the state of the town for 2015, and you can see that we have a lot to do in the 361 days ahead. Thanks.
I think it deserves
Yeah, that was well done. Best delivery. The best delivery.
All right. Thanks for coming, guys. Thank you. Okay, the next item of business is to approve the minutes of the mayor and council meeting of December 21st, 2015, and the bid opening of December 30th, 2015.
I would move that the mayor and council meetings be approved as submitted. Both of them.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Let the record show we unanimously approve the minutes. Our next item of business is the payment of the bills.
I move we pay the bills for the period since our last council meeting.
Okay, is there a second? All those in favor? Any opposed? Let the record show we unanimously agreed to pay the bills, which brings us to our town manager's report. Bill Undersall.
Okay, Mayor, at our last meeting, we talked about food trucks, and we talked about the idea of me making some amendments to the suggested format that was given to us, and I've done so, and I think the media has copies of this. Also, have suggested that one other section of this ordinance be looked at, Section E of 130-11, which allowed vendors, and I don't think we even realized that this existed, but it had existed since 1984, and it clarifies that what they meant in 1984 has really become our farmers market and our artisans market, so rather than just leave that floating, I addressed that too. I don't expect anything to happen tonight, but I did what you wanted me to do, which is sort of give you a starting point for discussion. And so here it is, and you all have it. One is marked in red, see the changes from the old ordinance, and the other one is just pure with it stated the way, so this way you can see what it used to say.
I think maybe just, if you don't comply, you lose your, there's several things that the vendor is supposed to do, and if they don't do them,
That's what Marty, I think I says that,
Yeah, the very last sentence, Marty.
they're discretionary by the town, and failure to follow the requirements will result in the removal of the
oh,
permission.
okay, I'm sorry, I didn't get that far.
But it's the last thing I thought of, but it's really important, because if people decide to just do things the way they want to do it, for instance, they don't pick up their trash after they're there, or whatever, don't pay the fees. I figured that the fees aren't in here at all, because if you pass them by resolution, you don't have to change that anytime you decided, by ordinance, you would have to change that fee. So I purposely left the fee out, so if you have a fee, you can designate it by resolution, not ordinance. But it's just a start. It's to start the dialogue. There's nothing in here that...
So Marty, just to be clear though, we are not actually going to give a license to food truck operators, because this ordinance that we're amending, the section of the ordinance is for vendors that are exempt from licensing requirements. So I guess I'm not quite sure the terminology that we use.
I think-
They're going to have to apply for some
They need a permit.
approval to operate, but
I think that's semantics. I think what we're saying is you are not itinerant peddlers. You're exempted, not really precisely, maybe from the term license, but you are there's definitely going to be a process. And if you feel like
process, yeah.
Exactly, an approval process like we would do with anything else. So whether it's a permit or a license or whatever, and maybe this is just where the people who are asking for it suggested it go. The best way to do this is to have a section or ordinance called food trucks. And it's not really starting from scratch, because everything you want to say, but I do think that a background investigation of the most minor should be taken on anything where you're conducting business in town on the public streets. You just want to make sure that someone doesn't have a history of fraud or whatever, or violations with the public health department or whatever.
Okay, so that is actually in chapter 130, section 4, investigation and issuance of license. And it says, on the receipt of the application, the police chief shall conduct a background investigation of the individual or business entity. And that's where I get this confusion again, because the section that we're talking about is for them that are exempt from a license. So we're creating, I don't know, I find it confusing.
Well, maybe we need some type of a permit. We can revoke a permit. Permit a permit.
You know, food trucks could also go on your streets. I mean, we have different ordinances, and where you put this is where the people who run food trucks thought it should go.
I think it goes in this chapter, I'm just not sure it goes in that section.
Yeah, I think it's maybe not an exemption, but they are peddlers, and or they could be defined as a different form of peddler and go in an earlier A, B, C, whatever the section would be. And I didn't print out the whole thing. It's probably 2 pages longer.
Well, we could engage in a discussion now, or we could say, why don't somebody read this, take a couple weeks, and we could come back on the 18th and give our opinion and see
I
where
want
it
to
goes.
ask a question too. If food trucks are only permitted on private property, does that eliminate the town from any liability if somebody does commit fraud, licensure? You know, you have to go through the health department to get your food truck anyway, but if it's on private property, and Marty has an issue with brick and mortar paying taxes, if it's on private property, the landowner has the opportunity to charge a land rent. I'm just throwing this out, whether they would or not. And then the food truck owner has to have liability insurance, they have to have the permit from the health department, plus inspections. Would this eliminate some liability on the town if we said that food trucks had to be on private property, and then they would have to get permission from...
Well, it must. I mean, it must,
landowner?
because the way we've approved it is on private property so far.
Not the town streets, on private property.
I know, but I mean, we must think that's less liability because we didn't develop a process by saying that 2 food trucks in town could operate on the private properties that they're operating on. So we must not have felt that there was any obligation or responsibility. I don't think there is.
But you've covered that by requiring that they have the town named on their liability insurance policy as
I think
insured.
that when they're operating on your streets, you have the ability to be sued. If someone opens the door and the car hits it, and they're wider than people thought they should, they will sue us also, as they do on everything else. So you have to sort of protect the town citizens by saying, okay, let's see that we're on your insurance policy for acts of negligence liability. But I think on private property, I think it's a whole different ballgame when there has to be some approval process, because if you have somebody who's approved and doesn't have enough parking and they put 4 food trucks in there, you're soon going to have a complaint from people who say, wait a minute, they don't have enough parking as it is. But
they're going to the property owner, not to us.
well, I'm still fine with that. I think it needs less attention than this. But this is this was a request to go right on Main Street, and I think there's a lot of good stuff in here, not everything, where they were going to be, when. I think when is as important as anything. If you're talking about the lunch hours from 10 to 3 that we talked about, I think there's far less problems than if you're running till 10, 11 o'clock at night.
Oh, yeah.
Depending on where you are. I thought about this today. You bagged all the meters into downtown. If you hadn't bagged the meters, this would be an economic issue. Like if they were covering up meters with trucks, you would say, hey, there's a loss of revenue there.
I was thinking the same thing, when that fee they pay now is what, $35 or something like that? We'd collect more money in parking meters if they put them in there. I mean, that's ridiculous. It should be at least 10, maybe 100 times more, that much more to operate that food truck. So,
Well, how
of course,
much does a restaurant?
I'm not in
pay?
favor of the food trucks, period. And
license?
you're going to have to do a lot of convincing to get
Well,
my
that's a
vote.
different, Yeah.
So
What do we-
you could go
What do we need to do
a route with a
now?
license instead of
You
a
need,
permit.
you need to tell, you need to discuss what you like about this, what you don't like about this, what you have consensus on, what you don't. So, I mean, you can go through it, because I can't really return and guess what you're,
Right.
what you're gonna vote on. So, you know, for example, I have them on 3 streets of the town square. Because I think that's a good place for them to be, High Street, Cross Street, and Park Row. I also anticipate the state highway may come in and say they can't really go on Cross Street, that's a state road. So that way you have 2 blocks there, and I think lunch hour is great, especially for experimental. So you say the times, the locations, and the terms, okay? You gotta have insurance, and if they don't like it, they can go back to private property or where we've already approved them, or try something else. But this is, you know,
Or actually open up a restaurant in a building and pay rent and taxes and like everybody else is in that business.
well,
That's
I
fine.
think this is business, I think it's business friendly. I think it's worth a try. I tried to frame it in a way that you could say, hey, that's too onerous, or that's not, you know, enough.
Yeah, I had a couple of comments.
Yeah,
about
so
that,
let's just hear your comments, and then we can come, you wouldn't be expected to introduce this till you're comfortable with it.
Are the only locations around the park? So we have the 3 sides and that's it? I guess we can come back with
Those are the
additional
downtown,
recommendations.
those are the downtown locations.
Okay.
That doesn't rule out, that all other locations for operation food trucks be approved for times and locations by the mayor and council. That's the very next one. So if somebody says, I don't even want to be there, I don't like those people.
Okay.
I want to be up here. For example, I want to be on Spear Road, because all the doctors there, when they break for lunch, they need food. They need the things that the drug reps don't bring them for lunch.
Maybe they want to be right down in front of the waterfront.
Again, they come to the town and say, hey, I got a different place. I like to be at the foot of High Street. So you say, okay, that's fine. Your permit will allow you to be there for 3 months or summertime or whatever. So you work it out, so they give you the time and the dates. I do think that it shouldn't be nearly free. I think it's like a dog. When you buy a puppy, you take better care of it. Right, Marty?
I know more about dogs than I do food trucks, but I'm not in favor
Of any of them.
I just think it's anti-business. It hurts the people that are in the restaurant business right now, so I'm just not in favor of it.
Well, it's possible that a restaurant businessman could have a food truck too,
And I think it's a
going
nice,
mobile.
it's a way for younger entrepreneurs to get into a business that they care about, and I think I do have some comments if you're for those. So we're looking at section, or chapter 11 of chapter 130, which is peddlers and soliciting. And again, I'll just repeat that I find it confusing because the word license comes up in here, and this is the section about people that are exempt from licensing. So that's a main point that I have difficulty with. For example, the amendment is all in section F. Very first section, A, says specified by the town in their license to operate, and yet we're in this exemption.
Why don't we call it an exception thing? I don't see how it really is exemptions anyway.
Yeah, it's not,
Looks
that's
like
that's my point.
Well, let's rename that
Or put this somewhere
13011.
else in the chapter. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
Okay.
stop calling it exemptions from licensing
Call it something
requirements.
else, okay.
They're exceptions.
The other main point that I had is number G, or letter G. You have that a monthly fee set by the mayor and council be paid in advance. It would seem to me that monitoring monthly payments is going to be pretty onerous for the town, and maybe we should make them pay in some minimum period, either quarterly or semi-annually, or, somehow seasonally. Some of them might, but monthly might be kind of tough to monitor.
All right. I like quarterly fees. If somebody's doing it for a summer or something,
Yeah.
then it's easier to track. And if it's not a huge fee, they can pay in advance. I think paying in advance is a good idea.
Yeah. And there's just a little bit of poor grammar in I would say food truck operations are permitted at the discretion of the town. That's parsing. Those
Yeah,
were my,
I see, yeah.
those were my main comments. And I have, when we come to fee discussion, that's a different issue. I have some thoughts on that too.
What do you think, Sam?
I personally like the idea of food trucks. I think they're fun and exciting, bring something new and different to the town. But I understand Marty's concerns. We also have to do what we can to support the brick and mortar stores that are paying taxes. But, like Bill said, it doesn't prevent the brick and mortar restaurants from having their own food trucks. And like you said, Liz, it's a great entrepreneurial stepping stone for a lot of people as well. So I think there are way more positives than negatives associated with these food trucks. So I'm in favor of, passing the amendments to our ordinance, but it's the fees and making sure that it's a relatively level playing field, I think, is really important.
And the other thing I meant to say, you maybe think of it, is that those 3 locations are all that we're permitting right now. Most municipalities have a setback from a brick and mortar restaurant. Their food truck is not allowed to operate too close, 150 or 200 feet.
Right.
And I'm thinking that by only permitting on the sides of those streets by the park, we're probably fulfilling that. The closest one would be Lemon Leaf, I think.
Yeah.
So I think we're probably, good on that. I don't know that we need to specify it in this ordinance so long as we don't start letting them set up in other places.
Right.
I think conceptually, I'm on board as well. I do hear the concerns. My personal feeling is that we've had these 2 food trucks for at least a year, and I don't feel like it's drained a ton of money out of our brick and mortar establishments. I still go back to, I walk around downtown on a Tuesday at noon, and there's just not a lot of people downtown. I mean, we need to do different things to get people in town, and this is one. I mean, could this potentially blow up and we have a dozen food trucks all around Fountain Park? Potentially, yes, but I think it's very unlikely.
I'm not sure a food truck gets people downtown. I mean, if I'm up to shopping center and say, gee whiz, I think I'll go down and get a sandwich down at the...
I agree. Like, I don't think it brings people a tremendous distance, but I think if you work downtown and there's this cool new thing, you do wander out to go check. I've seen it happen. I know when the Black Borough first opened, she had lines 10 and 15 people long in that parking lot where nobody ever goes. There's no reason they would have been there if she hadn't been there. So I do think it has the potential to pull more people into downtown, and maybe they go and they pop into Finishing Touch afterwards or whatever it is. So
This was when she was down at the...
on the Cannon Street site.
The following week, did you see a line there that week too?
It was intermittent. It depends a ton on the weather. It depends a lot on...
I mean, people will go the first time. I can't remember when they opened that steakhouse up.
Yes, I know.
You couldn't get in the place the first week. 2 months later, it was closed up, so you still got to put a product out there.
Well, I have complaints about the MVA bus taking up so many spaces on High Street, and I would never make my comments without talking to the restaurants in my ward. So, you have a restaurant in your ward, Sam. Marty, you have them in yours. I think we owe it to our existing businesses
I
to
have
see what
talked to
they,
a couple.
see what they like.
Are you saying I haven't? I've went to
No.
about 5 of them.
No, I'm not saying that you haven't, but...
2 of the major ones say they're dead set against it, so.
I've had some complaints too, so I have to take the current businesses into consideration too.
Well, the fee she pays now, people leave a bigger amount of tip on a lunch bill than what she's paying per day.
Well, I mean, that's gonna change, Marty, so I think it's quite obvious that we're gonna raise that rate. So, I mean, if we raise it high enough, would you be more willing to support it, or?
No,
It doesn't
because
really matter.
the money would come to us, which is nice. But I'm worried about the restaurants. I mean,
Right.
we're not gonna go give that higher fee and split it up to the restaurants that may lose their business. So that's my concern. My only concern about raising the rate is at least make them on a fairly even footing with the poor people that are, not the poor people, but the people who do run the water and
What I'm hearing is, I feel like we need a little more time to think about this. We have a draft, we can formulate our opinions and comments on what's in front of us, and I think we should bring this up at our next meeting and try to make a decision about this on the 18th. Is that, no, not the 18th? Yes, the 18th.
The 18th is a holiday.
The 19th.
Are we having a meeting on Tuesday night?
That's what I assumed.
That's kind of like a...
How about
that's a
at our
Jen
next
question.
meeting?
Yeah, it would be the 19th.
Are you guys, does that sound like a plan?
yeah, no, I agree. I don't think we should make a decision tonight then.
Okay, well then why don't we think about what we have on the draft, come up with suggestions, or just come up with your opinion on whether or not we should even do this at all. But I think we need to make a decision.
I'm going to bring
I
it
would like
back.
to try to make a decision at our next meeting.
If we don't do anything, what will happen to the 2 food trucks that we currently have operating in town?
Well, the other food has never asked to move from where it is, so I assume that they're happy there. So it's really only being set forth by one. So they're still okay to be where they are. And not
never
that
paid-
that's never kept her where
But,
she's supposed to
I mean,
be.
when we gave her permission to operate, we gave her permission to operate, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was 90 days for a trial period, and she paid a single fee for 90 days. And we've never renewed that permission, she's never paid another fee.
Yeah, I think that's something we need to address
She's
also.
not operating where she said she
And
would
she's not
operate.
operating where she was asked to do it.
That's my concern, you know, I mean, we,
Well, I think one of the reasons is that site is just not that great of a site. And I know that's not our fault, but I think that by giving these folks a better location, that might help address that, actually.
Right.
All right, so when I
The
bring,
the
I'll bring this
market is
back.
kind of driving where they're going, or at least where Black Borough is going, because it's just not a visible location. Whereas the other one is a little bit more visible. I still don't think it's a great spot, but
I'd
it gets a
also-
lot more volume.
I'd also like to see a requirement, sorry, Phil,
Yeah.
that they never be permitted to block handicap parking spots. Which, I mean, they shouldn't do anyway, but.
Oh, never, okay, never in handicap.
Yeah.
Put that in. I'll bring this back as a draft ordinance, okay, with all this other stuff out, so you can just read it the way it is, purely, okay?
All right.
Okay, last thing is I had a very successful bid opening the other day for the dredging, marina dredging. And I think everybody has a copy of it. This is a small windowed thing where our permit will be granted until February 15th, and then fishery season opens, or fishery hatching season, whatever, and there's not another opportunity to dredge until June 15th, which we all know the marina is in operation by that time. We had 5 bids, the low bidder being Deckelman's Pile Driving, a rock haul per cubic yard, $45 a cubic yard, and for 5,364 cubic yards, $241,380. Lindstrom Excavating, contractors from Wharton, price per yard $48.25, price for 5,364 cubic yards, $258,813. And there's an asterisk there because they believe that the yardage is more like 7,000, and they would drop the price after 5,000. High Tide Marine Construction of Ocean City has a per cubic yard price of $45.75. They would do the whole job for $245,403. And they stated in the meeting afterwards, though not on the not on the specs, that they would do the entire job no matter how many yards it was for that price of $245. Diston and June, who's done work for us before, at $55.90 and $299,848 for 5,364 cubic yards. And Kingfisher Environmental Services of Elkton at $109.43 or $586,982. Very encouraged by this and the fact that these people all said that they can do it if we get our permits by February 15th.
No.
And that's also hoping that our permits say February 15th, because I called the Board of Public Works, and finally, I called them during the holidays because I've been waiting for these things to arrive. And they apologized, said they needed one more signature, and that would be on its way. I called the Corps of Engineers, and that gentleman told me, oh, his desk is piled up, and he doesn't know when he can get to it. And I said, really? We put it in a year and a half ago. So I talked to him about getting a permit to dredge, because we're maintaining this marina as we have before, so that we can get started and then get the full permit. So I think that got that worked out.
But we need the permit way before the 15th, because that's when we have to stop.
No, we need the permit now.
Right, I know.
Because these gentlemen are all ready to start and mobilize, and hopefully winter doesn't overtake us. But this isn't a big job. It's in the basin where you launch boats. It's that one rectangle that goes out. We need those spaces for rentals. We've got about that much water in some of the slips closest to shore. We're all set to go. We have the grant money.
Digging down?
6 feet.
6 feet.
And the 5,364 cubic yards, that was your estimate, that was what
That's the
they all bid
engineer,
on?
that's the engineer's estimate. And I think it's pretty close.
Yeah. Well, so-
Because in the middle, where the boats come in and out, there's not as much. So,
I can't help but think that high tide has a leg up on all of them, because they're gonna do it no matter how much they get out of there. And if they just get 50 more cubics, it's well cheaper than anybody else, so.
Exactly. Yeah.
They're all the way in Ocean City.
Pardon?
They're in Ocean City.
Well, they're not going to dredge in Ocean City. They
over
bring
2
the equipment
hours
up here,
from here.
and they work up here.
I know.
Is there a
But
way
how about
that,
if they have to pull out?
can Deckelman's give us a guarantee?
they need to give us a couple of things. And I talked to them today because they are the low bidder. I need a bid bond from them, and I need a statement that they can complete it by February 15th and not in the 180 days. So
Right.
I would have to get that. Now, the third assurance, would they do the whole thing for that amount? I haven't asked them that question. But I don't think it's really right to say in a meeting after it. If you write that on your bid, that's one thing. But if you say it in the meeting, because I was asking, are there any questions or conditions or qualifications of the bidders? Chris was there too, and so that's when High Tide said, and they've done a lot of work for Ocean City, and I'm sure they're reputable. But to me, it's kind of like, well, you didn't write that, so.
Right.
But
I'm with Marty. I mean, $4,000 for peace of mind and insurance is a small price to pay.
I agree.
Well, it sounds like most of us are leaning towards bidder number 3.
I prefer bidder number 1.
Okay.
But if you do the
He's local.
if you do the
Your
calculation,
question, it bothers me, Linda. You didn't bring that up when the people were coming from Millersville to build those 3 holes out there, and that was $100,000.
I know, and it's a mess out there too.
Yeah, well, guess who wasn't in favor of it? We could have got the guys from right down the road to do it for $100,000 less.
So do you need a motion?
However, that was the RFP.
So what do we want to
if you
do?
do the
Have limitations
calculation
on
on
them.
Deckelman's, and it does turn out to be 7,000
7, yeah.
cubic yards, it comes to quite a lot more.
Yeah.
And I did the calculation earlier today, and if it's 7,000 yards, then High Tide would be the lowest bidder.
I would say that we authorize, I don't know if we need to take a vote or procedurally what we should do, but it sounds like most of us, and I agree that High Tide, if they really will go to the mat for that amount, no matter what the amount ends up being, it saves us a lot of money. So I would say we authorize Bill to call them and confirm that.
Would you do me a favor and have Deckelman's as the second?
Yeah.
Yes,
Absolutely.
exactly.
Yeah.
Because if
Yeah.
there's one thing wrong with this, for example, we can't do this by February 15th, to me, these are good bids for the future, and I would keep them, but I want to get this done. We need this so much financially. When we get to summertime, we've got 20 or 30 slips that we
Turning
can't
people
use.
away.
Yeah.
And there are people coming back to the marina because the guy we had last summer did such a great job, he was personable, and people are wanting to come back, and we want to make some headway. So if you would do that, I would appreciate it. Deckelman's done work for us in the past, this and in June they're very reputable contractors. He had the lowest price per cubic yard, and what if all this sentiment about them being above is wrong, and we're actually talking about below? Then Deckelman's the low bidder, if it's below 5,364.
But
So
will they do the whole thing no matter how much? That's
I'd never heard of that premise before. That guy said that after the bids. I've never heard anyone say that no matter what it is, because in our bids, I put this is estimated, that's 5,364, it's estimated. What it is what it is. When it's truly taken out, if it was 9,000, they would get paid by the yard. That's the way it's generally done.
Or are they talking about how deep they would have to go in this,
Well, if
in
you
this
go-
area because of all the sludge that's in there?
Well, no one, except for people who take soundings everywhere, would know exactly what it's
Are
going to
we
be.
going to have somebody doing
We
soundings?
have soundings, but they're a year or so old. They're in our engineering specs.
But while this is going on, are we
Well, they
gonna have
measure it out.
somebody-
When they do it, they make a graph of what they're doing. And that's pH, not FT graph.
But are we going to have somebody do the soundings?
Oh, yeah.
Chris is
I
gonna
mean, we're
dive
going to
down and
verify,
make
we're
sure
going to
it's-
verify the cubic yards.
All right, look, let's make a decision.
That's not what I'm asking about the cubic yards. I'm talking about the soundings.
That's associated with cubic yards. I mean, that's the volume.
Are you going to test in
Yes.
that area?
Yes.
Are we going to have somebody ourselves test in that area?
We're going to have somebody test for us, yes.
Macron.
if it turns out to be 7,500.
Well, if it's 7,000, then Deckelman's comes to 315,000.
315,000.
Definitely have to.
So,
That's quite a bit. That's the part that bothers me. This is even.
I think your majority, they have the bid bond, they made a public statement, it's fine with me. But if there's something that doesn't pan out on that, we should have second place
Yeah,
bidder.
I agree.
And we know they're local,
so
when they mobilize, they're just coming up river.
So should we move that provisional on high tide, putting in writing this commitment about the yardage? They would be our first choice bidder, and Deckelman second if they provide the documentation that you
Right.
need.
That's fine.
Yes, make the motion.
I just did. I guess.
I think you need to do it more formally.
Okay. So I move that we give the town manager the go-ahead to accept the bid from High Tide Marine Construction for dredging the basin at the marina, provisional on the contract, including the commitment that the price is fixed per yard is fixed regardless of the number of cubic yards they remove. And that failing that, we would select Deckelman's pile driving, conditional upon them providing the missing documentation and assurances that you need.
Yeah, I think we need to put in there that they got to get it done by February the 15th.
That was one of the,
That's her assurance thing,
yeah.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay.
And I'll let you know, and I'm going to keep pushing these agencies to give me the permit so we can have a chance of getting this done.
Is that it, Bill?
That's it.
Okay, mayor's report is our next item of business. Really, the main announcement that I have is that there will be a meeting this Sunday, January 10th, at 2 o'clock at our own Chestertown Fire Hall, to discuss, really the purpose of the meeting is for us to express to Shore Regional Health and UMMS what the community would like to see at the hospital going forward in terms of retention of services. So we've got, I believe, Senator Hershey and another member of the Eastern Shore delegation that will be actually emceeing the event. The way that it will probably be structured is that they will kind of lead the meeting. There'll be a set list of speakers. I'll be one of the speakers, maybe some local business owners, some of the doctors, and each speaker will be limited to 2 or 3 minutes to basically say what we think the community needs. And then the last 30 to 45 minutes will kind of be open to whoever comes to get public input. And the idea is that we want to preemptively let Shore Regional Health and UMMS know what we see as our needs before they come in February or March and basically just tell us what they're doing. Is this going to work? I have no idea, but we have to try. We have to make our sentiments known. And I'm hoping for a really big turnout, standing room only type of crowd to show these folks that there's a lot of people concerned about this. And I've been saying this at every meeting I've been to, which this charge, by the way, has really been led by the physicians and staff members at the hospital. And I've really been a guest at their meetings, and it's been really inspiring to watch them truly advocate for the health of our entire area. And I've been saying at every meeting, it's not just about Chestertown. This is a county issue, and in fact, it is a regional issue. And it's also, besides being a healthcare issue, it's a big economic issue for this whole area as well. So I hope all of you can attend. I hope you guys can help us get the word out about that meeting. And lastly, I have a reminder that on January 20th, we'll be having a public hearing on the C3 zoning text amendment, which deals with the number of gas pumps that can be permitted at large lots within the C3 zone, which was a request of an applicant interested in developing a site on High Street Extended, Route 20. And that's it for me. So let's get our ward reports, and why don't we start with you today?
Started last time.
All right, Marty. Is that true?
I don't know, I
Yeah, I
don't
think
keep
it's-
count.
You're the only one that
track of
keeps
them.
track of that. All right, we'll start on your end.
Am I not right, Dan?
I'm not saying anything.
Nobody else pays attention to that kind of stuff, Marty. All right, go ahead.
Okay, first I want to say that the proposal that went over to the governor, we did get an answer from him, and they are considering.
That's right.
And I think it's important to know that we did have somebody answer back, and they are looking at that proposal for the marina. And hopefully, they'll look at it in a good light. On the January 28th, I met with the mayor and Case and Joan Hicks and another person from the Recreation Committee. We did a walk around Bailey Park to see where we could reasonably put a playground. And we come up with a couple sites. I can't say we got total agreement to where it should go, but I think they're going to have another additional meeting, and hopefully I can make that meeting too. And then we have to get the grant money and so forth to build it. But it's needed. Maybe not so much in that area, but it's certainly needed in the town of Chestertown, because we don't have a really open public park for children of up to 12 years old right now. You can't go during school day to one of the school grounds. Now, I just want to mention this. I don't normally go out on New Year's Eve because over my adult life, I worked so many New Year's Eves in my profession that I thought, many times I thought if I could just be home, I would be home. I would be very content to be home. But I will say this, I went out this New Year's Eve to go to dinner at Louisa's because they were donating 25% of everybody's tab to the family that got burnt out. If I could see if I can get their name out there. Velvo family?
Velo.
Velo, okay. They were completely burnt out, the house down to nothing. They were very fortunate to get out of there. Thank goodness, it was an up truck, I think, going by that got them out, so. So I convinced my wife that that would be a good cause to go, and she was very happy because she didn't have to cook New Year's Eve dinner, so we did go there. The point I want to make is I saw an awful lot of Chestertown residents there. It was packed when I got there, and I went there early, and it was packed when I left. And I'm sure a number of those people were like myself. They went there because they were helping the people who needed the help. And that takes care of Ward 4. By the way, that is in Ward 4 up there, that Louise's Restaurant.
Sam?
New marketing committee meeting time is going to be the fourth Tuesday of every month at 5 p.m. Kay McIntosh is going to be leading those meetings. Lots of exciting things to talk about. The conversation with Benchworks in terms of what the overall branding is going to look like is pretty darn exciting. I think you guys are going to like the finished product. So one thing that we're actually going to be talking about is how do we present that overall brand to the town. You can't just say, hey, here it is. You actually have to, jazz it up a little bit. So we should be delivering that soon. So I just want to thank the folks at Benchworks for doing such a fantastic job for us. So, but other than that brief marketing committee update, all is well.
Are they a volunteer?
All volunteer.
Benchwork is?
Oh, no. Sorry. The marketing committee is all volunteer.
But we're not paying Benchworth.
Pardon?
We're not paying Benchworth.
We got a small grant to pay them, but they're doing it at a very reduced rate, and it
That's
is
what I was asking, but I didn't want...
very reduced rate, and grant funding is paying them.
Fine, if it's a grant, I'm all for it. So,
I knew you would be. Okay, Linda?
Okay, the farmer's market is operating all winter. Just a reminder, it's been nice on the weekends. And then second Friday will be this Friday. First Friday was New Year's Day, so DCA is having second Friday, this Friday, the 8th. So we'll all be downtown.
All right, sounds good. What's Chris?
Well, I just wanted to correct Marty. He did go first last time, according to the minutes. But that's all
What's
right.
that?
You did go first last time, according to the minutes.
oh,
But that's all right. I don't mind, Marty. But I haven't got anything to report from the first ward anyway.
All
Except
right.
to wish everybody a happy and healthy
you
New
had
Year.
notes to refer to. I was
Put it up on a
throwing
board
off
here,
something.
okay?
Yeah.
Just for the record, to tag on to Marty's comments about the playground, the Recreation Commission meeting this month is on Monday, the 25th of January at 6 o'clock, and they were going to try to invite the public to comment on our discussions using a diagram of Bailey Park. So hopefully we'll see if we can get people to participate. Okay, there were no requests to be on the agenda. Are there any questions or comments from the audience tonight? Yes?
I have one question of Mr. Stetson. Your issue with food trucks, from what I'm hearing, the food trucks will operate between 10 and 3 p.m. And I'm trying to figure out, you seem to make this connection between the brick and mortar shops and the food trucks. I mean, if a group of people are going out to Chestertown to sit down and have lunch, are they going to say, oh, there's a food truck, forget about lemon leaf? I mean, is it really the same thing?
You asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you, do you really think that a food truck is going to interrupt somebody's plans to go out to dinner?
I think it
Sit and
will,
have
I
lunch
think it
somewhere?
will do this, if somebody's on his way to one of the restaurants for lunch, if they're visiting town here, somebody, they stopped on the visitor center, and they said, you going downtown, and they're on their way walking down there, and they see a food truck, they say, oh, heck, we'll just get one here. There's a sandwich and lunch that didn't get sold at a restaurant. There's a waitress that was waiting on there that probably would have got a nice tip, that's not gonna get a tip. That's the part I'm talking about. No, I'm not talking about someone leaving their home and deciding they're gonna, I don't think people leave their home to go to a food truck, quite frankly.
Well,
They might leave their home
have
to go to a restaurant.
They have to.
That answer your
Sort
question?
of by definition, they've left home.
So is that gonna be voted on next week? Is that what's?
I think I would like to see a resolution on it on the meeting, which I believe, looking at my calendar, if we're not doing it on Martin Luther King Day, which we wouldn't, would probably be on the 19th.
And it will only be a first
It would be a
reading.
Tuesday, yeah.
Be a first reading, Jeff.
The first reading.
We don't pass an ordinance in a single meeting.
You know, I was just curious, I didn't know.
So it won't be voted on.
Comment, I didn't know.
What's your comment?
Actually, the funny thing is, I'm friends with one of the food truck owners,
Yep.
but from a business standpoint, I'm totally against it.
Okay.
I mean, those people, Mr. Stetson's 100% right. Those people don't pay insurance, they don't pay taxes, they don't, every restaurant is required to have a restroom and a hand washing facility. You know, do they have that? Where does the food come from? Do they know who's preparing the food safely? Refrigeration. I mean, there's a lot of other variables involved. And the other thing, it may not sound like a lot, but the pie in Chestertown is only so big, whether it's lunch, dinner, what have you. And the more bites taken out of it, from no matter where it's at, the less it is for the actual operators who employ X amount of people and pay their fair share. Even town water and sewer, you know, whatever, what else, you know, have you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you require your employees to come in if it's raining that day, it's not a real nice day.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. But a food truck doesn't have to show up that day, so it doesn't have any cost.
My biggest concern is, like I said, they can set up shop. Yeah, okay, you say, well, this location, that location, but it's a government street, it's a town street, it's a public facility. So realistically, and like I said, that's up to them in some ways, but on the other hand, I'm running a restaurant, I'm running a catering business. If I have the ability with my catering equipment, I could buy a permit and I could set up right next door to someone else's restaurant. You know, I'm not gonna do that.
Right.
Unless I mean, realistically, the way it's noted on public property, just say Tea Party or just say Downtown Weekend, someone could come in and boom, set right up in the marina right next door to where I'm at.
No, we can't, because we haven't given permission for that.
Yeah, I mean, the way that we have it in this draft is you could only be at Fountain Park.
Oh, sure, no, I understand. But I just think it's the old, give one,
Yeah, I hear
here's
you.
another, give all.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff.
Jeff, can I ask you something? If you had to make a choice, from your standpoint, would you prefer that food trucks be on private property only, or private and
I
public
think they
property?
should be private property. I mean, you go to Washington College, and nothing against Washington College, but you ask Washington College, would they allow a food truck on Washington College? I guarantee you they would not. Because it's gonna take money out of Washington College's pocket.
Oh, their contractor.
That's, so, you know, I mean, I'm just kinda strictly business.
Right.
Have you noticed, I guess, a dip in profits or revenue since those two food trucks have been operating so far? I mean, has it been noticeable? Is it measurable since they've set up location?
At the Fish Whistle, no. Previously at Old Mill, yes. But like I said, that was on private property. There was, like, I'm friends with her, there's nothing I could do about it.
But other than the fact of the food truck being on a public street, what's the difference between a food truck that's on a public street and a food truck that's on a private property? Either location, they're still potentially gonna, impact your
Sure,
business.
you're right. You're right. I just don't think it's fair to allow public access for food trucks.
Okay, are there other questions or comments?
How do they get around no restroom or place people washing their hands and so forth?
They have to go through the health department, so they must have special regulations for these operations.
Strange.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're adjourned.
A couple of them are coming by for a